Center for Spiritual Living, Delaware.
Good
Good
morning,
morning.
Linda.
Our focus for the month is the spiritual principle of diversity and the spiritual practice of inclusion. Abdul Baha, the head of the Baha'i Faith, wrote, "In reality, all are members of one human family, children of one heavenly Father. Humanity may be likened unto the varied colored flowers of one garden. There is unity in diversity. Each sets off and enhances the other's beauty." And Ernest Holmes wrote, "Behind all is a unity, through all is a diversity, saturating all is a divinity." From the screen, let us affirm this truth together with conviction.
I know we are all rooted in the one life which produces limitless diversity. Each person, plant, animal is a unique divine being. I therefore see all my brothers and sisters worldwide through the eyes of love. I practice loving inclusion.
I say yes to that.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, Linda. So the topic today is unity in diversity. And we continue with the awareness that these are not just intellectual exercises. This is to inform us, motivate us, encourage us to bring these principles into our everyday lives. And that means spirituality in action. So, diversity, inclusion. I'd like to start with this. Reflect upon the times in your life when you have felt excluded. I think it's a good place to start. I know when I think back on my life, actually one of the things that happened to me when I was about 4 years old, I was part of a very small neighborhood, and I remember that I was not invited to a certain birthday party, and I became aware of it. And I have this memory of myself feeling very, very sad, walking down the gutter up the side of the road and crying. Exclusion, and all of us have these experiences in one way or another. Another way another type of experience I had as an adult that left a huge impression on me and that has taken some forgiveness work is a time when I was still a fairly new minister, and one of my congregants came up to me and said, "Gee, I really wish you were a man." Yeah, I really wish you were a man. I wish we had a male minister. And it was in front of other people. And so it just reminds me that all of us, in one way or another, have been touched by the experience of inclusion. We can call it rejection, we can call it a lot of different things. But when people have judged us, ostracized us for something that is an inherent uniqueness about who we are, whether it's gender, whether it's ethnicity, whether it's religion or sexual orientation or whatever it is. Each one of us has, I know, just because of the human experience and because of the way many, that our culture has been socialized, have had this experience, and it's painful. It hurts. And yet, what I know has happened, this is the gift of it for me, is that I've grown in compassion and I've grown in a desire to uncover anything in myself that it might be any type of unconscious bias. And I ask for forgiveness of any of you if there's any time that I may have come from that place, because my intention is to heal that to the greatest extent possible. I know it begins within. I can have great intentions, but I must do the inner work. And I'm inviting all of us to do the inner work of uprooting those beliefs that tend to cause us to to stereotype, to judge, to ostracize, or to just make assumptions about people without really taking the time to get to know them. So let's breathe into that, because I know that's a pretty heavy topic and it can stir up some feelings in us. And yet I think it's a good starting place for this entire topic, because it prepares us to be who we truly want to be in this world. And so today's topic is unity in diversity. The two of them are like a polarity to a certain extent. There's the unity, our oneness, but then there's also the the diversity, the uniqueness of each and every one of us. I'm reminded of the truth that even every grain of sand is unique, and that blows my mind when I think of how many grains of sand there are on the planet. Every one of us is unique. Every animal, every plant, everything has an incredible uniqueness, which comes from the one source, the one presence, the one power, the one life that I call God, that is everywhere. It's in, through, and as all life, this presence. And I say it because you could say he or she, whatever you want. This presence is all inclusive, includes all. There's your principle or your practice of inclusion right there. So I have three different talking points today. The first one is that diversity is a divine idea. The next one is about the stories we tell. And the last one is that oneness is not sameness. And our source book for the month is Stained Glass Spirit, Becoming a Spiritual Community Where Oneness Does Not Require Sameness. I'm going to read that again because I think that's awesome. Stained Glass Spirit, Becoming a Spiritual Community Where Oneness Does Not Require Sameness. And it's by Tracy Brown, who is a practitioner in a center for spiritual living. And she's also, listen to this, she's also the chair of the leadership council of all of Centers for Spiritual Living. This is the quality of leadership that we have in Centers for Spiritual Living at the international level. An amazing woman, and someone who's dedicated her life to growing in our spiritual tradition, which is New Thought and Science of Mind, and who also has a profession of diversity inclusion. Also, that is her profession. That's what she does 24/7, working with with spiritual organizations, but also with corporations and other types of organizations to train people in how to be more inclusive of our diversity. And, Centers for Spiritual Living, as a result, this great big, larger organization that we belong to internationally, holds monthly Zoom conferences on diversity and inclusion on various topics. And it is, anybody attend one? Raise your hand if you've attended one of the Zoom conferences. Okay, there are a couple of people in the back. Okay, great. They're phenomenal. They are really help to reveal some of the hidden biases that we have so we can heal them. That's the whole point. And it's not only educational, but it is very deeply healing. And everybody in this room has the opportunity to tune into that if you're interested. So just let me know if you're not getting an email inviting you to participate. So diversity as a divine idea. We go back to the beginning. There is only one. We are individualized expressions of that one, and each one unique. So diversity then is a divine idea. It's demonstrated in creation. So I thought what I would do is take a look at these various terms, the definitions, so that we're all on the same page. So the word diversity means differences, differences. And all of us then, because we are each unique and different, contribute to any group our own diversity. Each one of us is diverse. We're different from everyone else. So diversity just simply is. And inclusion then, though, is a little different. Inclusion is a practice. It's actually a spiritual practice. It is building a culture, creating a culture when we recognize, value, and support diversity within a given group. It's not something that is automatic. We've talked about that because of our socialization. It requires deliberate intention and consistent action. So we'll be getting into more of that as we move throughout the month of what that means. But it requires deliberate intention to be inclusive and deliberate action, inclusive type actions. And then there's oneness. So again, because there is only one, we are one. We are expressions of the one source and cannot, no matter how hard we try, be separated from it. A really great way to attune to that is to remember the viewpoint of the astronauts as they're looking from the moon down onto the planet. It is one grand, beautiful, creative expression of God, and we are an integral part of that. We are one. And the word unity, and I'm going to be getting a little bit more into that in the third talking point, but unity is simply the awareness of our oneness and the activity in movement toward that awareness. So when we live in the truth of oneness, then, when we live from that place of the truth of oneness and we value our diversity, there's a greater tendency to love and to respect one another, to embrace differences. Anybody who has traveled, whether it's within this country or in other countries, can attest to the magnificence of diversity among not only the human family, but also plants, animals, landscapes, all kinds of things. And we are so blessed, by the way, by Lisa and her team. As you look around, we just have begun the season of the earth, and at the end of the service, I'll ask Lisa to stand up and share a little bit about that with us. But this beautiful array of photographs reminds us of the magnificence of diversity and how diversity actually is that which gives us an opportunity to experience beauty. Because if everything was bland and all the same, nothing would stand out in together in and enhance one another. I mean, I love the idea that we all enhance one another by our differences, like the flowers do in a garden. Beauty, the quality of beauty, is possible because of our differences. So again, if we accept diversity as a divine idea, then our differences that make us unique are God's gift to us and our gift to each other. Okay, talking point number 2, the stories we tell. Tracy Brown put it so beautifully in her book. She said, diversity is not the problem. It is our stories about diversity that are the problem. It's our stories, the stories we tell ourselves about diversity that becomes the problem. She said, ignoring the beauty, value, and uniqueness of different types of people is equivalent to ignoring God and refusing to see all the ways that God shows up as humanity. So, when we tell ourselves the story, and this begins with us, right? When we tell ourselves the story that we're not good enough, not worthy, or there's some characteristic about us that is not acceptable, when we tell ourselves that, we are not the problem. Our stories are the problem. Got that? When we tell ourselves the story that because some people are different than us, or they come from a different country, or they come from a different culture, or they come from a different religion, when we tell ourselves that there's something inherently wrong or bad about those people, it is not those people that are the problem. It is our stories about the people that are the problem. Is everybody getting that?
Yes.
It's all going on in here. The beautiful creation of God is perfect the way it is. It's our stories that create the stereotypes, the prejudices, and then lead to things like violence and war and destruction of every kind, including the destruction of our planet. It is the stories that we tell ourselves that creates those things that we don't want in our lives. All of those things that we say we're trying to heal, bring peace to the world and restore the planet. All of that begins within ourselves by dropping the stories that we tell ourselves about diversity, about differences. Ernest Holmes says unconscious thought patterns can be changed. We created them and we can change them. We created them and we can change them. That's from his book, The Art of Life. So it's time to tell ourselves a new story about diversity. A story that's based on spiritual truth. That there is only one source, and from the one come the many, the diversity of all life. That diversity is a gift to be enjoyed, and that we value each other's uniqueness and our own uniqueness. We celebrate who we are. We're no longer apologetic for who we are because each one of us has just an incredible thing to share with each other. This new story is not only necessary in building healthy relationships with each other, this new story of diversity where we value it and we love it and we're excited about it and we're grateful for it is the story that's necessary for world peace. It's the story that's necessary for solving our problems, all of the things that we deal with in the world, all the injustices, all the environmental degradation issues. This new story is essential for us to show up as love, to co-create heaven on earth and a world that works for everyone. So talking point number 3, oneness is not sameness. Oneness is not sameness. And Ernest Holmes puts it this way. He says, unity does not mean uniformity. Unity does not mean uniformity. So think of what happens if we focus too much on one or the other. If we focus too much on unity and oneness, what we can do is create a culture where we expect sameness, where we expect people to conform. That's one of the challenges of that. And if we focus too much on differences, then that can lead to a culture of separation, of loneliness, and alienation. So what we are doing is we're dancing the dance of polarity. We're holding the polarity of unity and diversity. Do you see that? It's both. It's not one or the other. It's both. When we can live in that balance, then we understand that while we are all one, we all have something unique to contribute. I was thinking about an example, which would be my sister and I. My sister and I share the same parents. We share the same basic upbringing, but each of us is a unique expression of family genetics, values, qualities, characteristics, and we each have our own human experiences based on our choices, our perspectives, our conclusions, the beliefs that we've cultivated in ourselves and that we've picked up from our environment, from the people that we've grown up with, say in our school environment, our friends. And so while we are very different in many ways, we're still sisters. We're still of the one source. And I don't know how many of you experience that in your family. You think, wow, how did we come from the same parents? We're really very different. It's because of our uniqueness, right? It's our uniqueness. And so we celebrate that uniqueness. So have you noticed then, we've moved away from an analogy of how we describe the United States of America. It used to be the melting pot concept, remember?
Yep.
It used to be the melting pot, that people would come from other cultures, they'd give up their heritage, and they'd become part of this uniform soup kind of thing, this pureed sameness. How boring is that? So we've moved away from that analogy. We realize that dishonors uniqueness and individuality. And so now it's the salad bowl analogy, where groups of people come to the United States from different cultures and different heritages, and they retain their uniqueness and enhance our country by their uniqueness. We know by studies and research that companies and organizations that honor uniqueness are stronger. They're more profitable, they're more successful. So it's really important that we understand how valuable each person's uniqueness is to the whole. So it's time to drop the stories, if there are any remaining stories in our minds about differences. It's time to embrace the story that's based on spiritual truth. We are rooted in the one, which produces a limitless variety or diversity. Each one of us a unique expression of God. The same human family. Each one of us enhancing the beauty of each other, like flowers in a garden. I love that analogy. And so it's natural from this perspective then to value one another, to value the diversity of the human family, and at the same time hold the polarity of oneness and diversity, oneness and diversity. And when we do that, we truly are the change that we wish to see in the world. We are that beneficial presence on the planet. And I am so grateful for that. So I just celebrate that, and I invite you to join me in this deep inner work that's required. Catch ourselves when we notice ourselves making judgments, doing stereotypes, and you simply just tell yourself, that's not the truth. This person or this group of people are unique, individualized expressions of God. They are my family. We are all family. We are one. And so it is.
So it is.